This is the sound of my voice talking at a normal level, of which I will probably talk a little bit more loud and back to a normal level. Talking.
Perfect.
Radio
That's
voice,
perfect.
radio voice, radio voice.
So tell us where you grew up.
I grew up in Oregon, Ashland, Oregon, which is a small town. It's halfway between San Francisco and Portland, so it is not close to anything. But it is a wonderful place. I am happy to have grown up there.
Is it close to? It's close to the California border, then.
Yes, it's the last town before you cross over into California.
Oh wow, very cool. And then how did you get into music originally?
When I was 23, a friend left his guitar in my car and then moved, and I was like, man, it's such a shame that no one is playing this beautiful instrument. And I was like, I guess I could learn how to play guitar. I started playing, I learned, I'll Follow You Into the Dark by Death Cab for Cutie. And then I was like, well, I guess I could write a song. I've never written a song before. And I started writing songs, and I was like, I'm kind of good at this. And I reached out to the only person I knew who had done music and hadn't done it for years. But I was like, do you know a producer? I'm looking for someone intensely creative, very smart, with lots of ideas, that is also really sensitive because I'm easily crushed. And he was like, I literally know just the person. Now Seth Ernest, and he's been my producer ever since.
Wow.
I know,
That's
right?
pretty cool. That's
Lucky.
crazy.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
Meant to be, exactly.
Yes, it feels very meant to be.
But
That's awesome.
You didn't start out in music though. You kind of cut your teeth in YouTube and stuff. How did they?
Yes. So I was a vlogger before that was a term that everyone knew.
Right.
For years, people would be like, "What do you do?" I'd be like, "I do vlogs." And they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Do you know what a blog is?" And they'd be like, "Sort of." And I'm like, "It's like that, but video." And they'd be like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, I did that for years, but
how did you originally get into doing? What made you? Did you want to be on TV, or were you in acting, or how did that?
I was just a really creative kid, and I saw just randomly this German kid doing vlogs from his bedroom, and I was just so taken by the idea that I could be sitting in small town Oregon and have this window into this other human's life on the literal other side of the planet. And I don't know, it just seemed like such a unique and neat idea. And at the time, again, people didn't know what vlogs was. Yeah. So it also was the sense of very kind of Hannah Montana-ish, where it's whoa, I could have a totally normal life and secretly have this vlog going. That's awesome. So yeah, I was just drawn to the storytelling and the filming of it. When I first started, I was like, it's going to be like a documentary series. But had got editing software for my birthday that year, so I could do it. And I remember one of the first videos I did, I had this idea of there's going to be a montage of the freeway and music and what song I was going to use, and then realizing there's no way to add music to videos with my software because it's a very inexpensive software. And just kind of figuring it out as it went. And then music came years later, not really connected to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're doing, you pick up the guitar, you're in your 20s, you start writing songs, and then how did you start playing in front of people, getting gigs? How did that all kind of come together?
Well, just immediately I was once I'd written one song, I'm like, where's an open mic I can go to? And was Googling open mic. I was in, I was where's there an open mic? Looked for it, found it, was immediately there. Hey guys, here's an original song I wrote. Oh. I wrote this. And yeah, just hooked on it. I always loved to be on stage. When I was a kid, I loved theater. Okay. I was bad at it, but I loved it. That's awesome. So started doing open mics, and then recorded an album, which now looking back, it's man, it's lucky that I knew so little about music and the music industry and anything, because if I'd realized how absurd it was for me to be I'm going to record an album, having written my first song 3 months ago, and then I'm going to go on tour, I'd be what? I would have been discouraged had I known how much I didn't know, but not knowing was its own gift because I just felt like if I can figure it out, I can do it. And like the first tour I did was a house tour because I just knew I wanted to go on tour, and I was like trying to figure out how I could. It's funny how sometimes I can just, looking back, I'm like, why was the answer is so obvious. I'm like, how can I meet bands? And like, didn't think, go to shows, dummy. I was just like, okay, how can I make this work for myself? And like, reached out to fans and was like, can I play in your basement? You know, and played in a lot of living rooms. And I toured like that for a couple of years until I had a large enough fan base to play venues, and I started supporting, which was amazing.
Yeah. So when you first did that first tour, you were just reaching out to anyone that you could that was following you like on YouTube from before?
I did, yes, from before. So I like put a post on Tumblr, and I was like, I want to play in your living room. I want to play a house show. This is what it'll look like. Like, I'll arrive at this time. I'm going to play at this time. I'm going to play for this amount of minutes. Are you interested in being a house that I play in? Please email me and like fill out this little form. And I had a form. And the first run I did was like, for people who came, it was like $10 suggested donation.
Nice.
And cool. Had like t-shirts, you know, had merch. Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. I'm really glad that I got to do that because house shows are just so intimate, so special.
Yeah.
Did you like background check them? I'd be super scared.
Yeah. I mean, you get a vibe from people, and like because I in many ways kind of like grew up online, like I made a lot of my good friends online. Do get a vibe through people, and I wasn't by myself. I wouldn't have done it by myself.
That's good.
Yeah.
But when you were playing those shows, is it just you on a guitar?
Yep.
So you
no mic.
just
you know,
in the living room, just like you're just hanging out at their house, jamming with them and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And people would send me a picture of their living room. They're like, we can fit like, 6 to 12 people, and they send me a picture. I'm like, oh, girl, you can fit 30 in there. Yes. One living room show I did in London at my friend's. In my head, I'd confirmed this with him, but I did not. And he's like, can't wait for the house show on Saturday. How many people are coming? And I was like, 50. And he's like, 50? What? And I'm like, dude, you can totally fit 50. And he's like, no, you cannot. I'm like, trust me. But like then in my head, I was sweating. I was like, do I not remember what that space looks like? Maybe he's right. But we did. And it was great.
That's awesome. On that same tour, though, did you have to kind of like map it out?
Oh,
was there logistics to it?
Oh, I mean, it was a full-time job trying to figure out that tour. And I did a bunch of them because it was like, okay, people would send me, I mean, I'd post a map of the U.S. and I'd circle like part of the U.S. I'd be like, this is the part of the country I'm touring. So like Nashville and East.
Okay.
And then people would like send me their things, and I'd be like, let me know what like dates between this month I can play at your place, and then like go through and try and figure out what routing makes sense. Try not to do. I think I never did any backing. Always forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have, and you didn't have anything recorded at the time, or did you have your record out at that time?
I had the first record out. Yes. Which like. Now you cannot find online in most places.
It's
I
gone.
Know.
You took
I
it
know.
off.
It's still on a few platforms. It was called Maybe Trapped, Mostly Troubled.
Okay. And then you put out a second record after that, or what was the next steps from there?
Then I did an EP, Halloway.
Okay.
2 years later, so 2016, and then I'm doing another album coming out this fall.
Is that you're doing like a trilogy of records, right? Or
I was gonna release this upcoming record, Bad Ideas, as 3 EPs. But changed my mind, so I'm gonna do it as a record instead, which I'm much more pleased to do. I feel I wrote it as a record. I didn't really want to split it up, but also like when this journey started, Crush was the first single from the record. Like before Crush came out, although like I want to like be careful how I say this because like what was said to me is like, you don't have a fan base for a record yet, which is like true. There, in some sense, it's like there wasn't demand is the word I would use. But at the same time, there were very dedicated, very interested like fans. So if any of y'all OGs are listening, just know that I'm not at all dismissing the incredibly like creative and great fan base I had then and continue to have. But yeah, so my manager was like, we should think about like splitting this up because then there would be like a natural progression through it. But Crush really took off, and Bad Ideas did great as well. So did I Like the Idea of You. So we're going to do one more single and then the album, which I'm stoked for.
That's amazing. That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
And what was your second trip out, like on the road, after you did the living room sessions?
After that, I would have done small clubs supporting Dodie, which
wow.
were billed. I think we billed them as a co-headline, but like she was definitely the bigger act even then. But I can't remember if she'd never toured before, if she'd never toured the U.S. But like I was trying to figure out how can I move to clubs, and I was like, I don't have enough people to like fill a club, but I bet if I teamed up with one other person, between us, we could fill a club.
Yeah.
So like reached out to Dodie. Like we didn't know each other too well at that point. We'd spent a little bit of time together, but I was like, hey, I kind of want to go on tour. Do you want to like go on tour with me? Like I'll plan all of it. And she's like, yes. And I was like, like was so nervous, you know. I was like, oh, I hope she has a good time. Like I hope I can do this. You know, it was well out of my depth, the idea of planning a club tour, and like, you know, it was just like, okay, what do we need? I'm like, we need to rent a van. I'm like, we need a trailer. We need to find a drummer, a drum kit. My bass player who's out with me now, Dante Samatamore, played drums then and played drums for me and like other acts on that tour. John Cozart was also on that tour, so was Rusty Clanton. And yeah, it wasn't until this last year I signed with a manager, and things have like really shifted in a very feels very dream come true-ish. You know, before it was everything that happened, I needed to make it happen. And now I have a team that I'm really grateful to work with that it's like no longer all the burden is on me, which is amazing.
Yeah. So now you actually have help when it comes to booking and getting people together.
Oh yeah, I don't do any of that anymore. It's the best.
How'd you gather your band up? Like when you're saying you just did that tour, like you just knew people, just reached out to people. How did that happen?
So Dante, my bass player, I think I played with him for the first time. He played drums at a show where I was like, I need to find a drummer, but I need someone who's already going to be there because I can't afford to like pay anyone to come, but I can pay someone to play. And my friend Jesse Kale connected with me with Dante, and he played drums for me at that show. And then I was like, come play drums for me on tour, and like has toured me for a bit as a drummer. And then like just this last year, you know, we had a conversation very mutual where he's like, I'm not really a drummer. And I'm like, I know. So brought Jess Bowen in, who is just like an unbelievable rock star of a drummer. She was a drummer in the Somerset. And I was like, Dante, though, can't lose you. Will you learn how to play bass? And he was like, can do, will do. Learn how to play bass for this tour.
Wow.
I know.
Awesome.
It's wild.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And how did you get hooked up with your management? Was that
through Mary Gormley, who was A&R at Atlantic, but not when I met her. When would this had been? I guess it was spring of 2018. I was like, had just finished recording Bad Ideas, and I was like, okay, I want to find a music manager. Like, that's top of my list for things that I want for myself. I'd never signed with a manager before, never in any other capacity or any of the careers I've had, because I never felt like I found someone who could do more for me than what I was doing for myself or understood what I was trying to do. So I'm like, that's at top of my list. And I just reach out to everyone I know. I'm like, does anyone know any music managers? Again, this is so great. The not knowingness was such a gift to me. And one person got back to me, Allie, was like, I don't know any music managers, but I do know Mary Gormley. And I was like, great, connect me. And Mary, like, so kindly connected me with my manager, Gabe Saporta, and my booking agent, Paolo, whose last name I should really know. Sorry, Paolo. I'm sure I would if I weren't on the spot. And my distributor.
wow.
That's really cool. So you just
Heck
put it
yeah.
out there and the universe makes it happen.
Yeah, sometimes.
Not being on a record label, is that your own choice? Like, or you just haven't found the right fit, or you'd rather do it independently?
I definitely enjoy being independent. I have an independent spirit, obviously. I'm not like anti-record label.
Yeah.
I just haven't. Well, for like also like transparency, I've only just started having conversations with labels this year. So it's not like there were people snapping at the bit to, sign me. And then now there is some interest, which is super flattering, and I feel like down to take a meeting with anyone. But also the question is, what will you offer me as someone who is, rolling, rock and rolling,
Yeah.
I think a record label is like perfect for an artist who is has a lot of creativity and a lot of artistry, but doesn't have the like connections or the money to make the machine go. It is so expensive to be on tour. Like we are lucky if we break even, and like that is like a thing that I consider. I'm like, man, maybe it is time to sign because like it's hard to make it go. It barely does. But at the same time, it's like it barely does, but it does.
Yeah,
And
right.
if I can retain control of like my masters and also like not have I think sometimes A&R is like a really positive thing. They can really like speak and guide you, but I also feel like I know who I am as an artist and what I want to say with my songs. And it's great not to have the pressure of needing to be something or to be anything besides who I am. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, again, I'm open to the conversation,
Sure.
but I'm also not, I don't feel like signing with a record label would validate me personally.
Right.
So yeah, I'm like, show me
Especially-
the deal points, maybe.
Yeah.
Mutually
Yeah.
beneficial relationship.
Yeah, especially
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
especially since you've built your brand. I mean, since the early on, you
Yeah,
obviously
a
had a
million.
vision, and you started gaining popularity. It's not like you need them to kind of put you out there and say, "Oh, here's this new artist."
Yeah.
Like you already have a lot of people that dig what you do.
Yeah, totally. But like, also, I am open to it. If record label came along and was like, "We're gonna make you a star," and it felt like the right fit, then I'd be like, "Yeah, maybe." I don't know. But I love to be independent. I do. Like when I'm honest with myself, the idea of signing, like there is some sense of loss of. I don't know. Is it a loss? I think it's a loss of identity. It's been independent for so long, and there's also like true. When I signed with my manager for the first time, I was like. Kind of freaked out because I'm like, man, I've done everything for myself for so long. What if like there comes a point where I like rely on you and you bounce and then I don't know how to do things for myself anymore. But like that's the risk you take with anything,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
It's
because
like marriage.
yeah, totally.
going back to the new record,
Yeah.
the Bad Idea. So instead of doing 3 EPs, you have the full. Is the full album done?
Yeah.
And what was the recording process? Was that different on this than the last EP? And
It was and it wasn't. It wasn't in the sense that it's still just me and Seth.
Okay.
I still write the songs. My only co-write I've ever done that's been released is Crush.
Oh, okay.
So all the other songs are still just me in my bedroom alone. I bring them into Seth as like very rough demos, and we work together. Not as co-producers. He is my producer for absolute clarity, but we are like in the room together, like bouncing ideas off each other. And in that sense, it was the same.
okay.
But it was different in that I felt like this was the first record that I really felt like I had a strong sense of who I was as an artist and what I had to say. And like, I don't say that at all to dismiss maybe Tremulously Troubled or Halloway because like
Yeah.
I still value and I still think those are great songs. But I was still experimenting a little more on like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that. And with Bad Ideas, I felt like I got something I got to say here and I got to say it this way. It's also the first record that I do have a co-write on, Crush. Wrote that with Yacht Money. That's Lauren and Solomon Olds. And, it's my biggest song by far. I should do more co-writes.
Yeah, it's very catchy. Like,
Yeah.
I can sing it in my head.
Heck yes.
And I just love it because it's like, who doesn't troll Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a huge stalker. When I'm into someone, I'm like, I need to see every photo that has ever existed of you.
Yeah. We actually met on Tinder.
Yes, Tinder success story. I love that.
Yeah, because it told me that we had 25 mutual friends. So
Whoa.
I was like, okay, well, I looked at a mutual friend and I went to that person's page and then I went to search Adam and there he was. So I made sure I looked at every post that was ever.
I love that. How long have you guys been married?
Oh gosh, going on 4
years.
years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Success.
See? Dude, I loved the dating apps. I'm all for it. Like,
Really?
Yeah. I didn't find someone I ended up with, but I had such a positive experience with it. And like people go like hard on them. Like, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. I just think you need to go into it with like a little bit more. Like, instead of all this pressure, just think of it, it's just an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with someone. And I'm like, and also sit down with them sooner. Don't chat forever. Just be like, do we have one thing we can at least talk about? Let's get coffee. Yeah. I mean, dating is it's just a practice, just like anything else. I was using the apps quite a bit while I was writing that idea, so.
Hey, that's good inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
with Bad Ideas, do you feel like you had more confidence with the songwriting going into it?
Yeah, I think that having written meant that I had a stronger sense of like, and having played out more, a stronger sense of like, okay, what feels good when it happens in a song live, especially. What's a good moment? What makes a good hook? Like, so just like in the technicality of it, I felt like a stronger songwriter. But also, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah,
Heck
of
yeah.
course.
Great. Going into it, like, the co-writers I wrote Crush with were like, at one point, there was like another song we worked on, or just like another day I went in with them. They're like, what do you want to write about today? I'm like, I don't know. Here's like this song about like, it's like you have like a crush on somebody. This is not about crush. I know it sounds very similar. And they're like, who's it about? I'm like, well, it's not really about anyone. And they're like, no bullshit songs, Tessa. They're like, we can write you a bullshit song, but no, you're a real artist. Lean in, write your truth. And I was like, yeah, no bullshit songs, Tessa. What a great idea. And like, although Crush, you could say that the description is very similar. Crush is also like directly about an experience. And I like with all the songs, I just entered into the songs being like, yes, just no hypotheticals. Just speak your truth, trust your gut.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's also life advice I've tried to follow since then. I'm someone who doesn't always want to look at the full truth of something, because if I like trust what my gut is telling me, then I know that action is required if to like change circumstances. And like sometimes you have to be brave to speak your truth, because whatever you have to say may change where you are, and you don't always know if the change is going to be for the better. However, experientially, it's just the only way to live life well.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask about so you had your YouTube channel originally, which wasn't music oriented. It was just kind of your videos. You do your own thing on there, right?
Yeah.
And then when you made the switch, was that weird for you? Was it like scary to go, okay, I'm not going to make these videos anymore, but I'm going to start putting my music online?
It was a slow transition because, again, like trying my best not to listen to my gut, my heart. You know, when I started, like all the way through, like the recording of the first record, it's like my heart was screaming, "This is what I want to do with my life," but my head was like, "It's just a hobby. It's fine. Like whatever. Like." It's much too vulnerable to be like, this is what I want to do, because when you say that, then it's like, what if someone sees me fail? But you also can't give 100% to something that you're not acknowledging that you want for yourself. So it took me a minute to come to terms with that. But once I did, it was just like done. You know, my username used to be Mika Kitty, which again, like, I want to be careful when I talk about these things. Sometimes people think like, every now and then I'll see a tweet like, I know you used to be Mika Kitty. And I'm like, yeah, I'm super proud of that. Like,
Yeah.
that was amazing. I'm so happy to have done that. But like when I knew, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like I changed my channel name. I didn't even blink an eye at it. And people were like, aren't you scared to lose like the fan base you have? And I'm like, no, I just assume that I will because I'm doing something different now, and that's fine. People don't need to be invested in like me for all of eternity. I am very grateful that anyone would have been interested in any specific art I was making at any point for a season, you know, in their life and my life. And I just feel like my music is good, and people who like music like I like will find me, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with the long game.
Nice.
What was the question? Did that answer it?
No, it did. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, making the switch from Mika Kitty to the music career, like how, like, if you were worried that people were going to be like, what, you know, what happened? Unsubscribe or like, you know,
I just
talking trash.
accepted that. I mean, because it's 1,000,000% going to happen.
Yeah.
Like I was getting like 100,000 views a video, which at the time was like more than it is now, you know,
I mean,
and then dropped to like 30, and I was like, fine, it's fine. It is what it is. It's fine. And
our son is 11, and all he cares about right now is just like followers on Instagram and TikTok.
Yes, TikTok.
And YouTube.
We love TikTok in this family.
Yes.
And YouTube and all that stuff. Do you remember when you first started like gaining like was there a moment that you're like, whoa, this is really starting to pick up and I'm getting all these views? Like, how did that happen? Do you remember? Was it just kind of slowly?
I didn't have any viral video. It was gradual.
Yeah.
But it's also so different then. Like it was, like I quit my job at American Apparel in 2011.
Nice.
So like still like full-time vlogger. No one knew who I was. No one knew what a vlogger was. People would be like, what do you do? Again, like trying to explain. So it's just like a very different time and experience and like culture of what YouTube was then.
Yeah.
Within that though, it was like awesome. I felt very cool. But I also had a lot of anxiety then. I don't know. You know, when you're 21 and you also already are a person with a ton of anxiety, and like suddenly your career is like personality centered, like that's a equation for having insane anxiety. And like, I remember when I was young, people being like, when I was young, I'm still young. When I was younger, people being like, just be yourself. And I'm like, that is like the most patronizing advice I've ever heard, because how can I be myself when I don't know who I am yet? And that was tough, but like, I don't know. People are always like, what advice would you give to yourself when you were younger? And I'm like, I hate to say it, but I'd be like, just be yourself. Because like now it's just like, it's just I believe so strongly that like every person is like unique, and what a beautiful gift to be unique and to celebrate your uniqueness and your own gifts and what you can give to people. And and not everyone is going to like you, and like that's fine, you know? And when I was younger, I couldn't quite grapple with that because I didn't know who I was yet, you know? And it's hard to even like be able to like yourself when you don't know who you are yet.
Sure.
I think. I don't know. I'm on a tangent
That's
now.
true. No. I
yeah.
still don't know who I am completely.
Yeah. And I mean, same, but I just accept that now, you know? And I'm just like, yeah, also like boundaries, emotional boundaries, whatever.
Yeah, it's hard to be yourself, especially if you're putting yourself online. Like everybody wants to put out this image of themselves that there really isn't. That's not how they are in real life.
Dude,
you know?
yes.
Yeah.
And that's the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Like, I think I had a long phase where I felt like I needed to be one way when I did not feel that way anymore. Like, needed to be peppy, needed to be whatever. And was like having a very hard time, like personally. And then like there was a transition when I just kind of started being whoever I was, and people would be like, I miss when you were happy. And I was like, dog, I am so much more happy now. I cannot express to you. I don't know. That great.
Was it hard to? Yeah, I imagine that being hard to kind of if you're having a bad day and then having to go even with your music career. Like if something happens, you still have to go out there and you still have to pretend like everything's great, or do you not?
It's different now. Music is different, and also I am different now. Like getting to play music on stage every night is a gift to myself. It's not a performance, although it is a performance, but it's not. It's like play. You get to go up there and like no matter how bad your day is, it's like I get to go on stage and play for an hour and 15 minutes, and like have a good time with my friends on stage, which I guess I'm lucky we don't fight. That would probably be a different experience if we were fighting. But just to like feel grateful, and like I have a lot of sad songs, so it's like if I'm feeling sad, there's definitely a lot of space to feel it in the set. If there were anything that I like struggled with in the career, it's probably more to do with press and interviews, because some days I'm like, no, this is truly very lovely. Y'all are very genuine and easy to talk to.
Thank you.
But like some days, I'm just feeling like, who am I? I don't know. And then I'm like, I need to be on. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I'm learning that.
Yeah, I used to be like in drama and stuff, and I learned that I'm an introvert with extrovert qualities, so it makes me really tired.
Yeah. Same. Can relate.
Yeah.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah.
So when does the new record come out? And the end of this
Fall.
Okay.
I don't know the release date yet, so. But I have a single coming out the 27th.
Oh.
I think that's what you said on your tour blog.
Yeah, I love your tour like diary video.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, did you edit that all together too? I mean, it looks great.
I edited the most recent one. Xana Perrins has edited the rest of them. I love her. She's such a good editor. But she's taking a break from editing, so I was like, okay, I guess I can pull out my software.
That one you just did though, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. I loved that.
Thank you.
And is that something you're doing just randomly on the tour? Because I was trying to find like day 1, day 2, day 3, and that was kind of the most recent one. It was just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Or is it just kind of do it as you do it?
Oh yeah, in an ideal world, I would love to be like doing them weekly, but the hard part is like capturing things, because we are working so much of the day. We're still such a small production, and we're in a van. We're not in a bus, and even like during setup, I'm patching the things. So it's like all of us are doing something. My bass player is patching the lights. My photographer is patching lights. Everyone has 2 jobs, and there's not a lot of time to really do anything else. So I've been really actively trying to think like I want to like capture something, but that's gonna be the only vlog I got from this tour. The other one was just sit down in front of the camera, and then I also did a song with the support from the last leg, Days Are May, which I'll put out at some point.
Cool, very cool. And are you always writing music? Like, do you write on the tour, or do you just focus on?
I don't. Writing's really personal for me, and I need like space to write. Like when I write, I'll give myself a whole day, and I'll be like 10 to 5. That's when I'm writing, and then like I might write in the evening too, or I might take a break. And they're just like there's like we've had 4 days off on this 6-week tour, so
That's amazing.
Incredible.
yeah.
And I saw you have some other tours dates coming up late, which is
she's opening for AJR next month.
I know, I saw that.
Dude, I am so stoked. When I saw they were going on tour, like they announced that tour this winter, and like I hit up my manager right away, and I was like, please get me on this tour. I'd be the perfect support for them. And he was like, in the nicest way possible, you are not a big enough act for this tour. Aww. And I'm like, I know, but please. I think sometimes he tries to tell me things aren't going to happen when he's like, I don't know, maybe, because he doesn't want to get my expectations up or like. So I'd like accepted that it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, man, I just know I'd be such a good support for them. And then like months later, he's like, I got some news. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, you're going to be the first leg for AJR. And I was like, I was just like jumping up and down. I couldn't believe it. I'm so stoked for that tour.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yes. We're so excited for you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
and then also Europe in October.
Oh, nice.
Heck yeah.
So you're not taking a break.
Not taking a break.
Have you, you said you played London.
I've done the UK as
You
support.
have?
I've never
Okay.
headlined, and I've never done Europe at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Heck yeah.
Very cool. Well, I know you have to meet some people and jump on stage here shortly.
Where are we at time-wise?
Like 40 minutes. I don't know what time it is now.
We don't have our phones or clocks on us.
It's almost 3 minutes.
5:57.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
We
Oh,
have-
this has been so lovely.
We have one more question
Yes.
with the 3 minutes, if you don't mind.
Please.
Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Ooh. Yes, I do. Like some practical advice is that no one thing you do is your make or break moment. I know like when you first start playing shows or you first start writing songs, it's like, I need this to be perfect. Like, because when you've only played 7 shows, every show you play is like, I wish I'd said 5 because I could have done that math easier. 5 shows. Every show you play is 20% of the time you've been on stage. So it's huge.
Yeah.
So as much as you can, keep the perspective that like just tell yourself, this doesn't matter, even though that feels counterintuitive, because what it is it's just one small piece in the 1,000-piece puzzle that is your career. And if you get too like hyped up, like me, I can get very nervous about things. There's not a lot of room to be an artist when you are really living in fear. Mm-hmm. So let go of that fear by just being like, you know what? This is just an experience. I'm here to learn. Being a great live act takes practice. Being a great songwriter takes practice. So every time you're doing any of those things, just think this is just practice. I'm here for myself. I'm playing for me because I enjoy it and because I enjoy learning. That's practical advice. Artistic advice, I'd say be yourself. It takes time to figure out, but I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like don't feel like you need to go up there and perform. Like, celebrate who you are and what you have to say, and like value that. Because it is valuable, and I guess it feels a little arbitrary because I don't know what you're saying. Maybe what you're saying isn't valuable, but maybe, let me rephrase. Maybe what specifically you're saying right now isn't particularly valuable, but I do believe that you have something to say that can be, and it's just about figuring out what that is and getting to it and like just taking it as it comes.
Bringing it backward.